The Italian Job, 1969, is one of my favorite films. It was incredibly successful and is beloved by many. So, it made sense that a remake would happen. In 2003, Mark Wahlberg starred in a reboot of the film. Today I'm going to answer the question: which is better? The answer to that question may surprise you. To start with, as they are both called The Italian Job, we'll call one 1969, and the other 2003. To clear up any confusion. To understand the rest of this essay, I'll give you a short description of the plot of both films. 1969 opens with a man being killed by the Italian mafia. Then meet Charlie Croaker, who's just been released from prison. He finds that the man who has just died was planning a job and wants Croaker to finish it. Croaker enlists a group of men to help him rob an Italian gold truck. They will so this by mucking up all the traffic lights. Then they escape in a trio of very British minis, and the film ends with them hanging off the edge of a road in the Alps as they've partied too hard. 2003 begins with a job in Italy in which Donald Sutherland leads a gang of thieves including Wahlberg, Edward Norton and Jason Statham, who are stealing a safe by blowing the floors underneath the safe and catching it on a boat. Then escaping to the Alps, where Norton betrays them and shoots Sutherland. Wahlberg and the gang track down Norton, and with the help of Sutherland's daughter played by Charlize Theron, they shut down the traffic lights and steal his safe, while driving minis, and the title comes from the fact that they get the safe in the same way as the previous Italian Job. So, let's begin with the characters. 1969 features an immense cast of 25 or so people, but the majority of them have no lines whatsoever. So, I'm going to focus on those who do. Our main character, Charlie Croaker, played by Michael Caine, is really rather bland. We don't know much about him. Other than he's just left prison and he has a girlfriend who also likes to steal. He cares about her well-being, but other than that seems to have little to no attachment to anyone or thing. Mr. Bridger, played by Noel Coward, is a criminal who seems to run the prison he's in. Early on we see him order an attack on Croaker because he broke into Bridger's personal toilet. There's some witty dialogue between Bridger and the guards which expertly satirizes the corrupt nature of the prison system. His reasoning for financing the operation in Italy is for purely patriotic reasons, and they comment on views which are still important in society today. Bridger has very little to do except make these satirical comments on society. But given that they're so funny, that's excusable in my book. The character I have the most problems with has to be with Benny Hill's Professor Peach. A character with no impact on the story whatsoever, a man who is introduced as a quite disgusting pervert as well as some kind of computer expert. He is apparently required to figure out the traffic lights, but is arrested for being a pervert the moment they arrive in Italy and never seen again. I understand that times have changed, but the inexcusable thing for me is that there's no reason for him to even be in the film. As I said before, the rest of the characters are unimportant, and all the characters are nothing more than surface-level stereotypes or comic relief. But if you came to this film looking for a deep character-driven drama, then you're an idiot. The film is about the heist. The characters play second fiddle. 2003 also suffers from a lack of character development. Wahlberg has a relationship with Sutherland that is explored at the start of the film. Sutherland is a mentor figure. And so, when he dies, Wahlberg has a reason to want to avenge him. Unlike Croaker in 1969, who just does the job because, well, it had already been planned. Edward Norton's betrayal is made worse by the fact that we've already seen him interact with the group and we know how close everyone was to him. Theron's character is conflicted because she uses the skills her dad taught her to crack safes for the police, and when Wahlberg comes along doesn't think it is right to steal. Eventually she is converted because Norton killed her father. She has a personal connection to the heist. While Wahlberg and Theron's motivations are stronger than the others because of the opening heist, everyone feels much more connected. Theron's inner conflict, though, is dropped almost immediately and feels wasted. That takes us nicely into the stakes of each film. Both film stakes are just, don't get caught by the police. But 1969, there are simply too many characters for any of them to make me care at all. Yes, they have personalities, but I'm really uninterested in the heist as it all goes completely to plan. Nothing goes wrong until the last moments. If the characters had a closer relationship to the man who dies at the start, I might have been more invested. But as it is, they go to Italy to do a heist. The mafia are there and that's about it. There's no emotional investment from the characters, so there isn't any from the audience. 2003 builds the plot on emotional investment. They are pulling of this heist not because they want the money anymore, but because of what Norton did to them. It is now a revenge film, which makes it so much more interesting. I care about whether they get the money because I want Norton to be punished. Thus, the film works. This time, like in Ocean's 11, the heist is supplemented with an at least average character story too. So, what I'm saying is that, and I hate to say it, 2003 is a better film. Is it more enjoyable? The short answer is no, I don't really like 2003 as much. Although I praised its motivations, I think the characters spent a lot of time doing smaller things, and then the conclusion to the story feels rushed. The final heist is a lot shorter and much less exciting. 1969 takes the time to set up its premise properly and then in the last 40 minutes hits you with a frenetic sequence filled with action and comedy. There are so many throwaway gags noticeable on the second, third, fourth rewatch that just make it more fun to watch. 2003 misses the whole point of the car chase. The story of 1969 is a less than subtle FU to Italy and Europe as a whole. The characters spend the car chase blatantly humiliating the Italians in a series of red, white and blue vehicles. 2003 just seems to take the surface level red, white, blue minis of car chase and doesn't understand the nuances of what made the film work. There are a few times when 2003 attempts to replicate elements of 1969. Some of them do work, however. Like Seth Green's Tech Whiz, who also has some rather misogynistic views, but he is nowhere near as awful as Professor Peach. And Green actually does some tech-related stuff. The traffic light hijack is also copied here and transplanted into a setting the audience know from context in other media will be infinitely worse than Italy. The best part is definitely the way the ending of 1969 is used in 2003. After the first heist, the group make it to the Alps and begin to celebrate before being cut short. This works well here as it is an homage, not a replica. Had the ending of 1969 been copied for 2003, it wouldn't have fit the tone. 2003 is a revenge movie. If no revenge happens, then the story becomes dull and uninteresting. 2003 is a good film. I don't dislike it. I just think it didn't need to be called The Italian Job. Most of its similarities are surface level. Tonally, it's a whole different film. I think I would enjoy it much more if it didn't have the looming presence of the masterpiece that is 1969. In my opinion, the only thing that will ever come close to the car chase in 1969 is the opening of Baby Driver. 2003 came out at a time when the market was saturated with new action thrillers, Mission Impossible, Bourne, Fast, and Furious. Actually, I think 2003 would work much better as a F&F movie than it does as an Italian Job successor. So, in answer to the question I posed at the start, which Italian Job film is better? It has to be 2003. It's a much better movie. But which is more enjoyable? Well, it's 1969 undeniably.